The porch light was still on when Evelyn Brooks vanished in the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood of San Francisco, a district with a population of over 8,000. The night of October 2001 was shrouded in thick sea fog and cold dampness from the bay spilling over the city's narrow hills, still reeling from the events that had shaken America. At 9:17 p.m., Evelyn's neighbor, Janet Moore, saw the 25-year-old theology graduate student step out of house number 1282, where the prayer group Inner Light Project had just wrapped up its session. Evelyn gave a slight nod in greeting, holding a small canvas bag containing a few notebooks and a thin jacket she threw on hurriedly. The elderly woman watched through the kitchen window as Evelyn's figure gradually dissolved into the dense fog, the yellow light reflecting only a faint glow at the street corner. What happened in the next 52 minutes would haunt San Francisco for nearly 2 decades. Before diving deeper into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest cases. In October 2001, San Francisco was blanketed in thick fog and an atmosphere of unease permeating the city in the aftermath of major events that had rocked America. In that context, Evelyn Brooks, 25 years old, was a graduate student at the San Francisco Theological Seminary, living with her husband in the quiet Sunset District on the western side of the city. Evelyn was known as a serious, calm person who was always concerned with theological issues and meditation. She spent most of her time studying and participating in a spiritual activity group called Inner Light Project. The group was founded by Tyler Deaton, a young man who styled himself as a spiritual guide, attracting students and young adults interested in experiences of inner awakening. They met weekly at an old rented house on Haight Street, where the scent of incense mixed with the dampness of brick walls, and sessions often ran late into the night. On October 18, 2001, Evelyn attended the session as usual. According to accounts from group members, that day's discussion focused on the theme of seeking stillness and liberation from material bonds. When the meeting ended, around after 9 p.m., Evelyn was last seen leaving the house, wearing a brown coat and saying she wanted to walk a bit to breathe the air. A few people noted she seemed tired and quieter than usual, but no one noticed anything out of the ordinary. That night, she did not return home. Her cell phone was left in the apartment, with no outgoing or incoming calls. Her husband, Tyler, initially thought his wife just needed time for personal reflection, but by morning, worry began to spread through the family. Friends tried contacting her, sending messages, calling nearby hospitals, but no place had any record of Evelyn. In the small apartment where the couple lived, everything was intact, with no signs of departure or disturbance. As time passed, her silence became unusual. By the next morning, Tyler Deaton contacted the San Francisco police, reporting that Evelyn Brooks, his wife, had gone missing after leaving the Inner Light Project group session, and no one knew where she was. The information was received at the Missing Persons Unit of the San Francisco Police Department on the morning of October 19, 2001. The initial file was created according to standard procedure, recording basic details: victim's full name, age, residential address, occupation, last seen time, and individuals with direct contact in the 24 hours before disappearance. The husband, Tyler Deaton, was identified as the last point of contact and became the central witness in the early stage of the case. The case was assigned to investigator Naomi Carter, 28 years old, from the Missing Persons Unit, who had experience handling short-term disappearances in the area. Carter began with basic verification steps, contacting hospitals in the city, emergency rooms, shelters, and accident processing centers to check for any unidentified woman admitted overnight. The sweep yielded no matching cases. She then went to the Brooks couple's apartment in the Sunset District with a technician to examine the scene. The entrance door showed no signs of forced entry, with locks and hinges intact. Inside, all household items were neat, with no missing or disturbed belongings. On the kitchen table were 2 coffee cups, one with a bit of cold black liquid left. In the study room, Evelyn's study materials were stacked neatly, her cell phone on the table, charger plugged in, but the device powered off. Clothing, documents, bank cards, passport, and other personal items were all in their places. There were no indications she was preparing for a long trip. Naomi noted in the report that the scene shows no signs of conflict, break-in, or hasty departure. She interviewed neighbors in the 3-story building where the Brooks couple lived. An elderly woman on the lower floor confirmed seeing Evelyn the previous morning as she left home, carrying a canvas bag with books. No one in the building heard unusual noises or arguments that night. The compiled report from the initial inspection ruled out robbery or break-in. By early afternoon, Naomi requested technical support to retrieve landline phone logs and Evelyn's bank account activity. Data showed the most recent call was made 2 days before the disappearance to the seminary office, and no card transactions in the last 48 hours. Simultaneously, she sent notifications to nearby police units and the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency to verify footage from cameras at transit stops and bus depots in the Haight-Ashbury area, where Evelyn was last seen. All data sources yielded no results. Based on the compiled information, Naomi Carter prepared a preliminary assessment report. The victim was a young woman, disappeared without signs of preparation, left no message, no evidence of voluntary travel, no clear signs of crime. The case was classified as high-risk missing and moved to active investigation phase. In the late afternoon of October 19th, Naomi submitted the first report to her superiors and proposed expanding verification steps, including checking the Inner Light Project Group activity location and contacting all individuals present at the meeting the night Evelyn disappeared. The Evelyn Brooks case was officially placed under direct oversight by the SFPD Missing Persons Unit. Immediately after the file was classified as high-risk missing, the San Francisco Police Department launched a wide-area search plan. The Richmond District Headquarters was used as the coordination center. On the morning of October 20th, 2001, rescue teams, forensic staff, and more than 20 local volunteers began surveying key areas around Haight-Ashbury, where Evelyn Brooks was last seen. The city administrative map was spread out on the desk, marking potential areas within an average walking radius for 2 hours after leaving the group. 3 locations were selected as primary search zones: the dense wooded area east of Golden Gate Park, the coastal road toward Ocean Beach, and nearby public parking lots around the group activity site. From early morning, foggy and damp cold weather made the sweep difficult. Police officers divided into 4 teams, using handheld communication devices, walking along narrow streets around Haight Street and old houses built from the early 20th century. Another group coordinated with rescue personnel bringing search dogs deep into trails in Golden Gate Park. The forensic team carried cameras, sealing bags, and laser distance measuring devices to record any suspicious traces. In the first day, they collected some trash samples and small items scattered along the road, but nothing directly related to Evelyn. Officers noted complex terrain, many narrow alleys leading to Stanyan Avenue, and the western grassy areas of the park, often frequented by homeless people and tourists. By late afternoon, thick fog forced a temporary halt to the search. The interim report concluded, no physical evidence found, no new witnesses, no signals from personal devices. On the morning of October 21st, the operation continued with expanded areas along the coast, from Cliff House to Ocean Beach. Rescue forces coordinated with the San Francisco Fire Department, using small boats to patrol the shore, scanning indented sand sections, rock crevices, and strong wave areas where slip-and-fall accidents often occur. Another group monitored public parking lots, where people often leave vehicles overnight. Suspicious vehicles were checked, license plates cross-referenced with SFPD databases. Results from the second day still brought no progress. Volunteers reported finding a wet cloth scarf on a trail leading to the sea, but upon examination, it was an item discarded earlier, unrelated to the case. The forensic team recorded additional sand samples and fresh tire tracks, but could not determine exact timing due to light rain overnight, altering surface structure. That evening, At a brief meeting in the temporary command center, investigator Naomi Carter presented results from the first 2 days: no clear evidence of crime, no victims' personal items, no direct leads. She proposed expanding the search south of the park and along the Great Highway route toward public parking lots near the coast, where many temporary disappearances due to voluntary departure had occurred. The proposal was approved that night. On October 22, the search entered its 3rd day. More than 30 personnel and volunteers were mobilized, divided into small groups sweeping each marked area. One patrol team used off-road vehicles along the coast, while another checked abandoned houses around Haight Street and Page Street, where many homeless people stayed. All were required to report every collected object for examination. By afternoon, the search still yielded no specific results. No body, no personal belongings, and no new witnesses who had seen Evelyn since the night she left the group. Weather turned colder, sea winds strengthening, forcing the search team to end earlier than planned. At the 7 p.m. summary meeting, SFPD agreed to extend the search range for another 3 days, expanding to coastal areas south of the city. New key areas were circled on the map and assigned to rescue teams for the next morning. Up to that point, after 3 continuous days of searching, Evelyn Brooks's disappearance still had no traces or direct leads whatsoever. On the morning of October 23, 2001, as the search operation entered its 4th day, the San Francisco Police Department patrol team, responsible for the western coastal area, reported discovering a vehicle matching the characteristics recorded in Evelyn Brooks's missing person file. The silver Ford Focus California license plate 4CZD 982 was spotted in a public parking lot near the main entrance to Ocean Beach, about 2 miles from the Golden Gate Park area. The car was parked neatly in the outermost row, nose facing the ocean, with a thin layer of dew covering the windshield and hood, indicating the vehicle had been there at least overnight. The license plate was checked via the mobile system, confirming it was indeed registered to Evelyn Brooks. The surrounding area was immediately cordoned off with yellow sealing tape. 2 forensic officers were dispatched to the scene, while other officers requested a halt to entry and exit in the parking lot within a 50-meter radius. Naomi Carter arrived about 40 minutes after receiving the notification. She noted in detail the parking position, weather conditions, fog density, and foot traffic in the scene log. It was nearly 9 a.m., and the beach was almost deserted due to the cold and strong winds. From initial observation, the car showed no signs of collision, with both driver and passenger doors locked. The window glass was slightly fogged from condensation, the driver's seat reclined backward, and the gear shift in P position. One of the forensic officers lightly touched the hood. The surface was completely cold, indicating the engine had been off for a long time. No keys were outside, and through the windshield, a rear-view mirror hanger in the shape of a silver moon was visible, matching the description of an item in Evelyn's car provided by her husband. Carter requested full scene photographs before opening the car doors. Every step was documented per procedure. Shots from 4 angles, measuring distances from tires to parking lines, noting parking direction and surface tilt. Sand adhering to the tire edges was sampled and placed in sealing bags, along with a small mud sample near the rear wheel. When the forensic team opened the car doors, using specialized tools, there was no smell of gasoline, smoke, or decay. The interior was relatively clean, fabric seats untorn, dashboard intact. The back seat pocket was tidy, with no large objects. The glove compartment on the passenger side contained a few receipts from a coffee shop near the seminary, dated October 17, 1 day before she disappeared. In the rear cargo area were a foldable umbrella, 2 books, and an open bottle of spring water. All were sealed for transport to the lab. No identification documents, wallet, or victim's phone were found. The steering wheel and gear shift surfaces were dusted with fine powder for fingerprints. Preliminary results showed only the owner's prints. Carter requested additional samples of fibers, hair, and dust from the front seats for testing the possibility of a second person having been in the car. While the forensic team processed The patrol expanded sweeps of the surrounding parking lot area. A trail leading to the sandy shore, about 40 meters from the car, was marked, but no clear footprints were visible due to strong winds and damp fog covering them. One officer noted a shallow indentation in the sand near the rear wheel, possibly from a heavy object temporarily placed, but not clear enough to identify the object type. The entire area was filmed, with positions numbered per regulation. After sampling was complete, the Ford Focus was loaded onto a specialized tow truck and transported to the SFPD forensic inspection lot on Bryant Street. Carter signed the handover report, simultaneously requesting the vehicle remain untouched until detailed inspection orders. Her interim report concluded, vehicle owned by Evelyn Brooks discovered at Ocean Beach, no signs of collision or theft, last driver undetermined. Parking area unlikely crime scene, but further evidence analysis needed. By end of day, the report was sent to the Missing Persons Unit commander, with a recommendation to shift the case from civil missing to potential criminal investigation. The vehicle discovery changed the file's nature. This was no longer a routine disappearance, but a case requiring consideration of the victim being coerced or lured into unintended actions. Verifying the Ford Focus became the focus of the entire investigation in the next phase. The silver Ford Focus was brought to the San Francisco Police Department's forensic inspection area on Bryant Street on the morning of October 24, 2001. There, the forensic team began a technical examination process per California state standards to determine mechanical condition, biological traces, and related environmental factors. The process was conducted in a sealed warehouse with stable temperature, all operations continuously filmed for evidence records. First, technicians measured wheelbase distances and mud depth adhering to tire edges. Comparison showed sand and mud samples were inconsistent, with clear differences in particle size and color between front and rear wheels. The rear wheel sample contained fine sand characteristic of coastal areas, while the front mixed clay impurities and asphalt dust, suggesting the vehicle had traveled through both urban and beach areas before stopping at Ocean Beach. No signs of emergency braking or mechanical collision under the chassis. Mud guards, wheel rims, and exhaust pipe were all intact, indicating no technical issues during travel. Tire tracks were compared to on-site collections. Results matched perfectly, confirming the car drove itself into the parking spot, not towed or pushed by another vehicle. The next step was detailed interior inspection. Technicians photographed each position, numbered and sampled fabric fibers, hair, dust, and residue from the driver's seat, door handles, dashboard, and ceiling. Dust sample from the passenger floor mat contained organic fine fibers, suspected white fabric, separated for additional testing. Dashboard and steering wheel were scanned with ultraviolet fluorescence for fingerprints. Results showed only matches to Evelyn Brooks. Gear shift and door handles had smudged prints, too faint for complete extraction. Preliminary chemical analysis detected no blood or bodily fluids. The driver's seat was adjusted further back than suitable for Evelyn's 5'4" inches height. A detail noted in the report, but not yet direct evidence. In the trunk, items seized from the scene, including the foldable umbrella, books, and spring water bottle, were examined separately. The water bottle contained clear liquid. pH testing showed plain water, no foreign substances. A coffee receipt, dated October 17 from the Castro area, was fingerprinted and confirmed to match Evelyn. No other DNA samples. All data was entered into the Central Evidence Management System. Simultaneously, the field investigation team analyzed the space around the parking spot at Ocean Beach. They returned to measure exact distances between the car and fixed objects like painted lines, light poles, and curbs. The parking spot was near the lot center, unobstructed, indicating the driver chose a visible position, not a remote area. Road tilt measurement showed balanced parking brake engaged. Outer tire surfaces had even fine sand adhesion, sign of stopping while sand was wet, likely during nighttime fog. Sand sample analysis from tires differed from Haight Street area samples, where the Inner Light project was based. Haight samples contained urban dust and asphalt, while car samples had high silica, typical of beaches. This result was included in the report with the assessment, vehicle driven to Ocean Beach lot from an inner city area, travel time undetermined. The Environmental Department was consulted to estimate parking duration based on salt density on glass and body. Results indicated the car was outdoors at least 8 to 12 hours before discovery, corresponding to arrival on the night of October 18th into early October 19th. This data matched the timeline of Evelyn leaving the group session. Additionally, no oil leaks or fuel spills, ruling out mechanical accidents. From compiled results, the forensic team's preliminary report noted, Evelyn Brooks's Ford Focus was driven to the discovery location under controlled conditions, no signs of coercion or external interference, no blood, physical marks or mechanical damage indicating collision or violence in the vehicle. Collected samples awaiting deep DNA and fiber analysis to determine second-person possibility. Report concluded, Ocean Beach scene likely only a vehicle placement point, not the incident location leading to disappearance. Vehicle does not reflect signs of attack or accident. This conclusion was sent with positioning maps, images, and preliminary test results to the missing persons unit. Naomi Carter signed receipt confirmation, adding to the master file, vehicle moved intentionally. Parking lot not the origin site of the disappearance event. With this information, the investigation scope was reoriented, focusing on tracing the vehicle's travel route before appearing at Ocean Beach. After the Ford Focus examination results were completed and sent back to headquarters, investigator Naomi Carter began shifting focus to a detailed exploration of Evelyn Brooks's personal life and the people she frequently interacted with, especially the Inner Light Project group. Information gathered from the seminary's records showed that Evelyn joined the group in mid-2000 while pursuing her graduate program in applied religious studies. According to school notes, the group was known as an independent prayer community, not affiliated with any official denomination or religious organization. The leader's name was confirmed as Tyler Deaton, 27 years old, a former theology student at the University of California, who later shifted to independent spiritual studies. Based on rental registration data and utility bills, the Inner Light Project had been operating steadily at a two-story house at 1282 Haight Street since 1999. Neighbors described the house as often lit late into the night, sometimes emitting chanting or soft music. They had little interaction with outsiders, kept to themselves, and ground-floor windows were usually covered with thick curtains. In administrative reports, the group had no legal entity status, was not registered as a nonprofit or religious organization, and was only listed as a private meditation community. Carter contacted the City Housing Permit Office to verify residency numbers. Records showed an average of about 10 people with temporary registration at the address over the past 2 years, mostly students or recent graduates in social sciences. While working with a neighbor renting next door, she learned that the Inner Light group often held meditation sessions lasting all night, occasionally entering and exiting in groups, dressed simply, speaking softly, but absolutely avoiding neighbors' questions. A man living across the street said that on some evenings they gathered in the backyard, sitting in a circle, lighting candles, and reading incomprehensible passages in monotone voices. According to him, the person named Tyler always sat in the center, reading louder than the others. Naomi requested the operations department to search for additional personal information on Tyler Deaton. Records showed he was born in 1974 in Oregon, had worked as a teaching assistant for a religious philosophy class, then quit and moved to San Francisco to establish a free spirituality research group. No criminal record, but he had been warned by the university for excessive influence on other students in extracurricular religious activities. She also found a small article in a local magazine from 2000 describing the Inner Light Project as a youth group inclined toward seeking inner enlightenment through meditation and silent prayer. The article quoted Tyler, "Only when people cut off all sounds can they hear the voice of truth." This statement was noted by Naomi in his personal file as a key indicator of the group's operating philosophy. To gather more internal information, she met with 3 people who had participated in and left the Inner Light Project in late 2000. The first, a music student, said the group started as a place to exchange ideas but gradually became strict. Tyler controlled schedules, meals, and banned phone use for days to maintain mental stillness. The second, a female student, said Tyler often organized hour-long meditation sessions, requiring absolute silence and viewing it as soul purification. She left because it felt suffocating and dependent. The third, a bookstore employee, said after a few months he realized all opinions had to go through Tyler, and anyone who objected would be isolated for long periods. All statements were recorded and filed as evidence. Naomi compiled the data, concluding the group operated with a closed structure and an implicit hierarchy based on submission to the leader. The internal report described Inner Light Project is organized like an unofficial religious group, small membership, operating in a closed model, emphasizing silence and personal control. The level of dependence between members and the founder is high, exceeding that of a typical prayer group. Carter incorporated this information into the overall missing person file, viewing it as a potential factor directly related to Evelyn Brooks's psychological state and relationships in the time before her disappearance. At the end of the workday, she added a summary to the investigation report. Victim had close ties to the spiritual group, led by Tyler Deaton. Group activities are centralized and controlling, showing signs of restricting members' communication freedom. From this point, Evelyn's personal file and all information about the Inner Light Project were officially integrated into the missing person case as an independent investigation branch. On October 25, 2001, after completing the collection of information about the Inner Light Project group, investigator Naomi Carter issued a summons for Tyler Deaton to come to the San Francisco Police Department headquarters for questioning. The interrogation took place in the morning in interview room number 3, with Carter and a recording officer present. Tyler arrived on time, dressed neatly, carrying a thin folder with identification documents and some personal notes. He introduced himself as the facilitator of a prayer and free spiritual research group, speaking slowly and maintaining a cooperative attitude. Naomi began with basic questions related to Evelyn's circumstances and their relationship. Tyler confirmed they had been married for over a year, living in the Sunset District. He described his wife as introspective, often spending time meditating alone, and in a phase of seeking inner stillness. When asked about the night of October 18, the last time Evelyn was seen, Tyler said the group session went normally, with the theme being silence and spiritual freedom. He said after the prayer ended, around 9 p.m., everyone left one by one, and Evelyn said she wanted to walk outside to breathe the air. He insisted there were no arguments or unusual behavior in the group that night. Naomi noted in the report, subject's statement maintains consistent tone, no signs of stress or evasion. However, when she asked specifically about the time he left the activity house, Tyler hesitated. Initially, he said he left right after Evelyn, but a few minutes later, corrected it to about 15 minutes later to lock up and clean. This minor inconsistency was marked in the working report. Naomi continued questioning about his movements after leaving Haight Street. Tyler said he drove home, arriving around nearly 10 p.m., without stopping anywhere else. However, in his initial report filed on October 19, the time he arrived home was recorded as before 9:30. When asked to explain, Tyler said he might have misremembered because he was tired and not paying attention to the clock. Naomi noted this discrepancy, but did not conclude. She shifted questions to the activities of the Inner Light Project group. Tyler said the group was founded in 1999, currently had 10 or 12 members, mostly students and young professionals. Their purpose, according to him, was to create a silent space to connect with inner truth. When asked about leadership structure, he denied any organizational hierarchy. Everyone is equal, I just coordinate the schedule. Naomi cross-referenced this statement with information from the 3 former members who had previously described Tyler as controlling all activities, even intervening in members' personal lives. When asked about this, he smiled lightly and said, Maybe they misunderstood. I only guide discipline for meditation. The response was recorded in the report, with the investigator's comment, subject tends to avoid the concept of power, describing himself as a spiritual guide rather than a manager. In the final part of the interrogation, Naomi asked directly about Evelyn's mental state in the days before the disappearance. Tyler insisted his wife showed no signs of depression, but was under spiritual pressure from facing deep religious questions. He said Evelyn often meditated for hours in silence and sometimes talked about wanting to escape the noise of the world. When asked if she had ever mentioned intending to leave or live separately temporarily, Tyler replied that she might have thought about it, but he didn't believe she would do so without saying a word. Naomi noted the contradiction, describing Evelyn as introspective, needing silence, while asserting she could not leave alone. At the end of the nearly 2-hour session, Tyler signed the report and requested a copy to preserve his personal statement. Before leaving the room, he emphasized, "I believe she's just somewhere, seeking her own answers." Naomi observed his demeanor, calm, unflustered, but overly composed compared to the typical reaction of someone who had just lost contact with their wife. In the internal report sent immediately after the interrogation, she wrote, "Subject Tyler Deaton cooperative but statement contains minor discrepancies in timing and movement sequence. Expression focuses more on spiritual ideals than specific events. High consistency in speech, but lacks natural emotion." The report concluded with a preliminary assessment. Need to continue cross-verifying statements with Inner Light Project's group members to determine accuracy and recheck subjects' movements on the night of October 18, 2001. On the afternoon of October 25, 2001, immediately after concluding the interrogation of Tyler Deaton, investigator Naomi Carter began conducting a series of individual interviews with members of the Inner Light Project group to cross-reference statements. The first 4 summoned were Micah Moore, Sarah Lynn, Bose Harrington, and Nathan Hall, all listed as regular participants confirmed through rental records at Haight Street. All sessions took place over October 25 and 26 in the form of separate interviews, fully recorded and documented. The first person invited was Micah Moore, 24 years old, a music student. He appeared cooperative, arriving early and bringing a small notebook. When Naomi asked about the October 18th evening session, Micah replied that it was a normal prayer meeting, nothing special. He described the group starting with Bible reading, followed by silent meditation for about 30 minutes. When it ended, Evelyn stood up, said softly, "I need to get some air," and left before the others. Micah said he stayed to clean up and did not see her after that. When asked about Evelyn's mood that evening, he said she seemed quieter than usual, looked tired, and didn't smile much. Naomi asked further about the relationship between Evelyn and Tyler. Micah responded briefly, "They were very close, and we all respected them." This statement was recorded, showing no hesitation but lacking specific details. The second person was Sarah Lynn, 23 years old, an art student, one of the few remaining female members in the group. Sarah appeared tense, speaking softly and constantly looking down. She confirmed content similar to Micah's. The meditation session was quiet, with no arguments or disagreements. According to her, Evelyn sat at the back of the circle, appearing slightly shaky during the final prayer. When asked if that was unusual, Sarah replied, "Evelyn was sensitive. Sometimes she got tired after long meditation sessions. I didn't see anything strange." Naomi asked for details about when Evelyn left. Sarah said she didn't remember exactly, only that Evelyn was gone when I left the room. Naomi noted in the report, witness describes events vaguely, avoid specifying times. The third interview was with Bose Harrington, 26 years old, a sound technician who had joined the group in 1999. He had a calm, confident demeanor and answered more clearly than the previous 2. Bose described the sequence of that evening. The group started at 7:30, meditated in silence for nearly an hour. Then Tyler said a few words about allowing the mind to empty so light can pass through. According to Bose, Evelyn sat right in front of Tyler, looking a bit pale and quiet. He said she seemed unwell, occasionally clutching her sleeves and bowing her head. When Naomi asked if anyone spoke to her after the meditation, Bose said no, because everyone left almost at the same time. He also confirmed Evelyn was the first to leave the room, again matching the previous two statements. However, when Naomi asked if Tyler stayed last, he paused for a few seconds before saying, yes, as always, Tyler was the one to lock the door. The response was marked in the report for cross-referencing with Tyler's earlier statement. The last person in the group interviewed was Nathan Hall, 25 years old, a psychology student. Nathan was cautious, often pausing several seconds before answering, as if choosing his words. When Naomi asked about relationships among members, he said, "We see each other as siblings. Tyler helps us with spiritual direction." Regarding the October 18th session, Nathan said Evelyn sat still the whole time, barely speaking, and after it ended, she just gave a slight bow and left. When Naomi asked if anyone followed her afterward, he firmly stated, "No one left with her. We all assumed she went home." Noticing that all statements were nearly identical in content and phrasing, Naomi asked an additional question. "Did anyone tell you that Evelyn would be absent for a while?" Nathan immediately replied, "No. Tyler just said she needed some time to herself. That was normal." This answer drew Naomi's attention, as it was the first time a member mentioned Tyler speaking about Evelyn's absence, while Tyler himself, in the prior interrogation, had insisted he had no prior knowledge of it. Upon completing the 4 sessions, Naomi reviewed all reports and identified a notable commonality. All statements were almost perfectly consistent in event sequence, wording, and even descriptions of Evelyn's mood. 3 people used the exact same phrase, "left in silence," to describe when she departed the group. This repetition to an experienced investigator was rarely coincidental. Naomi noted in the internal report, unusual level of consistency among statements suggests witnesses may have been coached or discussed beforehand with investigating authorities. No one provided specific information about timing, direction of movement, or victim's transportation. In the end-of-day evaluation, she compared timelines between Tyler's statement and the members. Tyler said, "Evelyn left the group 15 minutes before him, while all 4 others confirmed he was the last to stay and lock the door." The minor contradiction was enough to raise questions about the accuracy of the initial statement. Naomi concluded the summary with a note: "The Inner Light Projects group exhibits high uniformity in statements, lacks natural detail, weak emotional response, high likelihood of internal information coordination before police contact." The report was submitted to the unit commander on the evening of October 26, establishing the basis for the next investigation direction, focusing on verifying timelines and connections among members on the night Evelyn Brooks disappeared. On the morning of October 27, 2001, forensic analysis results from Evelyn Brooks's Ford Focus were returned to the Missing Persons Unit. The report, over 40 pages long, compiled all technical data obtained during examination at the San Francisco Police Department's Evidence Analysis Lab. Naomi Carter received the first copy, reviewing each item to cross-reference with prior results. According to the report, the overall inspection found no traces of blood, struggle, or indications of violence occurring inside the vehicle. The entire interior compartment, including floor, seats, trunk, and dashboard area, was scanned with ultraviolet light and luminol reagent, but showed no positive reactions. Airbag system intact, doors without scratches or signs of forced entry. However, the forensic team noted one significant finding: in the rear seat crevice was a white fabric fiber approximately 2 centimeters long, sampled, and compared with fabric materials collected from the Inner Light Project house. Results confirmed the fiber matched in structure, 80/20 polyester cotton, dye color, and weave density, with the type of white blanket used in the group's communal living area at Haight Street. This discovery was assessed as having direct correlation between the vehicle and the location related to the group the victim participated in. Additionally, the Environmental Department completed analysis of sand samples from the tires. The front wheel sample contained a high ratio of feldspar minerals and asphalt dust, characteristic of central urban areas, while the rear wheel sample had fine-grained sand mixed with sea salt, but did not match samples collected at Ocean Beach. The report stated, inconsistent sand composition indicates the vehicle traveled through at least 2 different geological areas, one coastal in origin, one from paved inner-city roads. This led to the hypothesis that the car was not parked at Ocean Beach immediately after leaving Haight Street, but may have stopped at an intermediate location before being moved to the lot. The next section of the report presented fingerprint analysis results. A total of 14 prints were found in the vehicle, of which 12 matched Evelyn Brooks's samples, and the remaining 2 were too incomplete for comparison. No stranger fingerprints were detected on the steering wheel, gear shift, or door handles. Analysis of shoe prints in the rear passenger compartment showed compressed dust in the shape of small athletic shoe edges, consistent with the type Evelyn usually wore, but too faint for definitive conclusion. The report also noted microscopic skin cell traces collected from the driver and passenger headrests, separated for DNA testing, with preliminary results matching Evelyn's sample. The mechanical engineering team further inspected the odometer system, determining the vehicle had traveled an additional approximately 11.6 kilometers since the last service. Compared to maps, this distance did not match the direct Haight Street, Ocean Beach route, but was nearly 4 kilometers longer. This discrepancy reinforced suspicion that the vehicle had detoured before reaching the parking lot. In the comments section, the responsible technician noted, "No abnormal engine wear, vehicle operated normally, locking and door systems functioning stably." This rules out the possibility of the vehicle being stolen or used under duress. At the same time, the Chemical Analysis Department completed testing of air samples inside the vehicle. Results showed low levels of volatile organic compounds, no flammable substances or solvents. This confirmed no use of anesthetics, gasoline or solvents inside the car. However, one minor detail was noted. In the rear floor dust sample, trace amounts of ammonium salt were present, commonly found in humid coastal air, indicating the vehicle may have been parked in a near-ocean environment for at least a few hours before discovery. After compiling all data, the report concluded, no evidence of violence or accident in the vehicle, but multiple factors indicate the vehicle traveled through different areas and was not parked at Ocean Beach immediately after the victim left the group activity location. The fabric fiber sample recovered from the vehicle shows a clear connection to the living environment of the Inner Light Projects group. The possibility that the vehicle was driven by someone other than the victim cannot be ruled out. When Naomi Carter received the full results, she read every page carefully, paying special attention to the sections describing the fabric fiber and travel distance. She immediately added an internal note. The Ocean Beach scene is likely an intermediate location or intentional vehicle placement point. Need to verify actual route and travel time to determine the origin site of the disappearance event. This report, when presented to the Missing Persons Unit commander, completely changed the investigative agency's perspective on the case's nature. From a routine missing person case, the Evelyn Brooks incident began to be examined from the angle of possible criminal involvement. The discovery of evidence matching the Inner Light Project group environment and inconsistencies in related individuals' statements were deemed sufficient grounds to shift the file from civil missing to criminal investigation suspected of criminal elements. From that point, Naomi Carter officially took responsibility for coordinating all subsequent steps in the case. After the forensic report on the Ford Focus was released, concluding that the vehicle had been moved before being parked at Ocean Beach, the San Francisco Police Department decided to expand the search scope to identify the possible origin location related to Evelyn Brooks's disappearance. Based on geographical data, travel time, and wind direction on the night of October 18th, the investigation team circled 3 key areas: Presidio, Muir Woods National Monument, and Marin Headlands. Vast coastal forest regions, north of the city with complex terrain, numerous trails, and desolate rocky areas. These were locations the vehicle may have passed through or stopped at during the 11.6 kilometers recorded on the odometer. On October 29, 2001, the expanded search operation officially began. Mobilizing nearly 50 personnel from SFPD, the Marin County Sheriff's Office, the California Search and Rescue Volunteer Team, and 2 environmental forensic specialists. The search plan was divided into 3 phases. The first phase focused on sweeping trails and roadside areas leading from the Golden Gate Bridge to Marin Headlands. The second phase examined the dense Muir Woods area with GPS devices and thermal detectors. The final phase surveyed the Presidio, adjacent to San Francisco Bay. Weather throughout the operation was unfavorable. Thick fog, strong sea winds, and low temperatures limited visibility. However, the command team decided to deploy all 3 search directions simultaneously to maximize time. On the morning of October 30th, the first rescue team entered Marin Headlands. Personnel carried large-scale topographic maps and used handheld sonar devices to scan high-slope areas where slips or falls had previously occurred. Along Conzelman Road and the Battery Spencer area, officers swept every rock crevice, narrow path, and low shrub zone. Several unusual objects were found. Nylon bags, fabric scraps, old cans, but all were confirmed as household trash. No signs indicated Evelyn's presence or a second related vehicle. Simultaneously, the second team worked at Muir Woods National Monument using light helicopters equipped with infrared cameras for aerial scans. Sonar positioning systems and thermal detectors picked up multiple false hotspots from animals and light reflections, but no images matched the search target. Main trails, including Dipsey Trail and Fern Creek, were checked, but no evidence was found. Environmental technicians collected sand and leaf samples for comparison with tire samples from Evelyn's vehicle. However, on-site preliminary analysis showed completely different soil composition, more clay and less silica sand. This meant the vehicle was unlikely to have traveled deep into Muir Woods. At the Presidio, the third search team coordinated with the U.S. Navy, using small patrol boats and sonar to scan the bay bottom near Crissy Field in case the victim had fallen into the water. The sweep lasted over 6 hours, covering more than 2 square miles, but recorded no biological signs. Supporting divers confirmed cold water and strong currents, making body recovery extremely difficult if one were present. By late afternoon, all teams reported no positive results. On October 31st, the first summary meeting of the expanded operation was held at the temporary command center in Fort Mason. Naomi Carter presented compiled data, no physical evidence, no new witnesses, no evidence pointing to a specific location outside the city. Based on GPS data and travel time, she proposed additional sweeps of minor roads connecting Haight Street to the northwest suburbs, including Hidden Valley and panoramic highway routes. However, due to limited manpower and poor weather, the plan was executed on a small scale over the next 2 days. On November 1st and 2, a small team was dispatched to re-patrol Southern Ocean Beach coastal areas, using sonar to scan along the shoreline. Search personnel worked in shifts, each lasting 6 hours. Reports noted recovery of a few drift items, jacket pieces, nylon fabric, but none had forensic value due to heavy seawater damage. The forensic team concluded no samples were related to Evelyn Brooks. Meanwhile, SFPD's intelligence unit also reviewed traffic cameras around the Golden Gate Bridge, but data was limited as most cameras at the time did not record continuously. Several bridge toll stations were checked, but no footage matched Evelyn's license plate. The lack of surveillance technology left the travel route investigation nearly stalled. From November 3rd, the search operation officially entered its final phase. The 3 key areas, Presidio, Muir Woods, and Marin Headlands, had been swept multiple times with no new signs discovered. An internal SFPD notice concluded, no body evidence or biological traces of Evelyn Brooks found. No new witnesses or related vehicles identified. In the comprehensive report sent to the unit commander, Naomi Carter clearly stated, "The Ford Focus has been confirmed as directly related to the case, but there is no basis to prove the route between Haight Street and Ocean Beach." Search results in the 3 northern city areas found no suspicious elements. Therefore, recommend temporarily halting large-scale search operations to focus on investigating personal relationships and internal activities of the Inner Light Projects group. The proposal was approved on November 4th. By the end of the operation, over 100 hours of rescue personnel work were recorded, and more than 30 square miles of forest and coastline were swept without yielding specific results. The 82-page summary file, including detailed maps and GPS data, was stored in the SFPD system. Police officially suspended field searches, shifting investigative focus back to San Francisco City, concentrating on witnesses and connections between Evelyn Brooks and the Inner Light Project group, the only remaining lead in the still unresolved disappearance. After the search operation was suspended, Naomi Carter returned to San Francisco Police Department headquarters to compile all technical case data. The goal was to review Evelyn Brooks's communication devices for final clues about her actions or thoughts before disappearing. All of Evelyn's cell phone, personal computer, and online accounts had been sealed since the first week of investigation. The SFPD Digital Unit began analyzing electronic data on November 6, 2001, using specialized recovery software in Case Forensic 4.0. Initial results came from the cell phone. Call logs showed a total of 18 calls in the 7 days before Evelyn disappeared. 14 were between her and her husband, Tyler Deaton. The remaining 3 were with Inner Light Project group members. The last 2 calls were made on the afternoon of October 18th, less than 3 hours before she left the group. Both were to the same number, Micah Moore. The first lasted 2 minutes 11 seconds. The second only 28 seconds. Times recorded were 1846 and 1912. Mobile tower location data showed both calls originated within the Haight-Ashbury area, matching the group activity location. No further communication occurred after 1912, and the phone disconnected from the network around 20 o'clock that day. Naomi requested the technical unit to extract SMS message content, but results showed an empty inbox, with no sent or received messages in the 3 days prior to disappearance. She shifted to email data. Evelyn's laptop, seized from the Sunset District apartment, was accessed via recovery privileges. In the personal email drafts folder was an unsent file, created at 15:02 on October 18th, with no subject or recipient. The content was brief, only 4 lines. Silence is the only thing left. Redemption does not come from words. If the soul needs quiet, I will let silence speak for it. Naomi read the passage multiple times, noting in the report, wording reflects self-blame or deep religious ideological influence. She compared it to old notes found in Evelyn's study. All were concise and somber, but never used phrases like redemption or let silence speak. The draft's language was symbolic and possibly related to Inner Light Project group session content Evelyn participated in. The analysis unit also discovered a personal journal file on the computer named light_notes.doc. The file contained short entries, mostly quotes from prayer sessions. Naomi noted one entry dated October 12th. Tyler says, "Silence is the soul's test. I fear I'm not strong enough to walk that path fully." The note was preserved as evidence. Additionally, no internet access, bank transactions, or credit card use occurred after October 17th. All data stopped exactly on the day Evelyn disappeared, reinforcing the hypothesis that she did not leave intentionally. Naomi compiled results and presented them to the unit commander on November 8th. Her report emphasized the last 2 calls to Micah Moore confirm Evelyn was still in the group activity area. Complete cessation of communication afterward, combined with draft content showing strong religious language influence, indicates the victim was under ideological control or psychological impact from the activity environment. Carter added an assessment in the summary report. Draft language is ritualistic, not reflective of ordinary thoughts of someone preparing for a trip or voluntary departure. Technical evidence points to the victim being influenced by an organized belief system capable of dictating behavior and personal choices. The final conclusion of the report section was sent to the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, recommending expansion of the investigation into psychological control aspects within the Inner Light Project group to determine whether Evelyn Brooks's disappearance stemmed from intentional mental influence by others. On November 9, 2001, immediately after completing technical data analysis, Naomi Carter decided to summon Micah Moore to San Francisco Police Department headquarters for supplemental testimony. This was based on phone scan results showing he was the last person to communicate with Evelyn Brooks before her disappearance. The summons was sent in the morning, and Micah arrived at the interview room at 13:20 that day. He appeared in casual clothing, looking tired, avoiding eye contact when meeting Naomi. The session took place in interview room number 4, fully recorded and documented. Naomi began with basic questions: his relationship with Evelyn, the time of last contact, and the purpose of the 2 calls on the afternoon of October 18th. Micah spoke slowly. She just called to ask about some items, nothing serious. When asked to clarify, he explained that Evelyn wanted to borrow some things for the group session later, but did not specify what. Naomi asked more specifically, "Did you meet her that day?" Micah hesitated for a few seconds before replying, "No, I only talked on the phone." The answer drew Naomi's attention because in the initial file, Tyler Deaton's statement mentioned a few people stayed to clean up after the session, including Micah. When Naomi referenced this, he appeared confused, lowered his head and said softly, "I might remember wrong, but I don't think I saw Evelyn after the group." The middle part of the interrogation focused on the item transport detail Micah mentioned in the voluntary phone recording. He stated Evelyn was preparing to clear some things from the apartment for more study space, and he had helped her a few times before. Naomi asked specifically, "Did she ask you to help on the night of October 18th? Micah answered evasively. She said she'd need help over the weekend, but no time was set. When asked why Evelyn called twice just to remind him of that, he did not answer immediately, only saying, maybe she changed her mind or forgot something. Naomi noted, witness evasive, no description of specific actions, timing and items vague. Throughout the session, Micah frequently used the phrase Evelyn was in a phase of silence, saying she wanted to detach from noise to find peace. Naomi noted that his language closely resembled Tyler Deaton's wording in the previous interrogation, indicating possible shared influence from the group's ideology. When asked if he had heard anything about Evelyn's plans to leave the city, Micah affirmed, "No, she didn't go anywhere. If she did, she would have told Tyler." He emphasized that everyone in the group was close like family, and her disappearance was just a phase of testing. This response was recorded verbatim by Naomi in the report. When shifting to questions about the October 18th evening session, Micah stuck to his previous statement. Evelyn left the room early. No one followed. Naomi asked him to describe the meeting space and everyone's positions again. He hesitated, saying the room lighting was very dim, and everyone sat in a circle, so he didn't remember positions clearly. When asked to sketch a rough diagram, his drawing differed significantly from the previous descriptions by Sarah Lynn and Bose Harrington. Naomi noted this inconsistency, but did not confront him directly. Instead, she asked, "Did you see her carrying anything when she left the room?" Micah thought for a few seconds and replied, "I don't think so, maybe just her jacket." Throughout the session, Micah tended to repeat religious phrases: light, purification, silence. He said Tyler taught everyone to respect disappearance as part of the enlightenment process. When Naomi asked what he understood by that, he replied, "Sometimes absence is not loss." The statement made her pause her note-taking for a moment before continuing, "Do you believe Evelyn will return?" Micah did not answer, only looking down at the table. The interrogation ended after more than an hour and a half. Micah signed the report and left the room in silence. Naomi noticed his hand trembling slightly when holding the pen. Before leaving headquarters, he quietly asked, "Do you think she's safe?" but did not wait for an answer. She only added to the notes, attitude fluctuating, showing signs of psychological stress, unclear if due to pressure or concealing information. 2 days later, When the investigator followed up for additional contact, Micah was no longer at his registered address. According to the rental manager, he had left San Francisco the next morning by personal vehicle, saying he was visiting family in Southern California. Naomi sent a request to verify travel through the federal transportation system, but at that time, there were no specific location tracking measures. Her comprehensive report, submitted on November 12, clearly stated Micah Moore was the last person to contact Evelyn Brooks by phone, but provided no specific explanation for the conversation content or actions on the night she disappeared. Statement contradicts some details from other witnesses. No direct evidence to charge, but witness behavior and reactions suggest knowledge beyond what was stated. With no additional physical evidence discovered, the Evelyn Brooks case officially entered a deadlock phase at that point. After nearly 2 years of investigation with no results, Evelyn Brooks's disappearance gradually fell into stagnation. From late 2001 through 2002, the San Francisco Police Department only recorded scattered citizen reports, claiming to have seen a woman resembling the victim in various parts of the state. But all were ruled out after verification. No new physical evidence, financial data, phone records or communications emerged from Evelyn's accounts after October 18, 2001. Step by step, the case was gradually removed from the Missing Persons Unit's active investigation list. In March 2003, based on California's civil investigation regulations, the case file was evaluated as no significant progress in 24 months and proposed for status change. In an internal meeting on March 17, the San Francisco District Attorney's Office representative agreed with the SFPD commander, insufficient evidence to continue investigation as a criminal case, and insufficient grounds to determine criminal conduct. The meeting minutes clearly recommended transferring the case to cold case, missing, presumed deceased. Naomi Carter, now transferred to the General Investigation Unit, was responsible for finalizing the closure file. She compiled all data, 18 witness statements, 7 forensic reports, 62 samples, and 12 photographic evidence items. Her 94-page summary clearly stated, no signs of voluntary departure. However, due to lack of physical evidence and direct witnesses, the case cannot be classified as criminal. Victim status undetermined. The report was approved on April 2, 2003. From then on, the Evelyn Brooks file was officially closed. In the same year, many Inner Light Project group members gradually left San Francisco. Some moved to other states, others ceased contact entirely. Micah Moore was never summoned again. According to civil registry records, he changed his residence to Southern California, then left no new address. Tyler Deaton sold the Sunset District apartment in August 2003 and left the state. Tax records showed he moved to Oregon, registering temporary residence in Portland, where he opened a spiritual counseling center named the Path of Stillness. When asked by local reporters about the Evelyn Brooks case, he refused to answer, only saying briefly, "We pray for her peace." Within SFPD, the case was recoded as CC031174 and filed in the cold case, Missing Persons Archive at the Bryant Street Criminal Data Center. Original evidence, including the white fabric fiber, sand samples, and CD containing forensic photos, was sealed in a metal box labeled, "Do Not Destroy." Evidence hold. Digital copies were stored in the internal system, but received no further updates. In the 2004 Evidence Management Report, the Evelyn Brooks case was briefly noted, no new developments, long-term storage file, 25-year retention period. Naomi Carter, in a memo to superiors before handover, wrote, "I believe Evelyn Brooks disappeared under circumstances of severe psychological influence. Although no direct evidence of criminal conduct, signs indicate she was under ideological control and lost independent decision-making capacity." Her note had no legal value but was filed with the official record. In subsequent years, Evelyn's name occasionally surfaced in periodic reviews of long-term missing persons. The California State Police continued to maintain her DNA data in the national database, but no matches resulted. The Brooks family, after years of waiting, filed a court request to declare Evelyn Brooks legally missing in November 2003. The decision was approved in early 2004, confirming missing, presumed deceased status, allowing the family to complete civil procedures. By mid-2004, all administrative case files were transferred to passive storage. Physical data was sealed in Cabinet 7, Basement Archive of SFPD. The Evelyn Brooks case was no longer mentioned in regular operational meetings. In the 2005 internal statistics, it was listed only as Case 03 Haight-Ashbury 1174, unresolved. For Naomi Carter, it was one of the rare cases where she could not find an answer. After more than 2 years of investigation, over 100 interviews, and hundreds of search hours, the final conclusion was encapsulated in 4 words: missing, presumed deceased. And from that point, the Evelyn Brooks case officially vanished from the San Francisco Police Department's active investigation roster, becoming a cold file in the city's cold case data archive. In April 2019, 16 years after the Evelyn Brooks file was moved to cold case storage, a chance event changed the entire case trajectory. During demolition of the old house at 1282 Haight Street, former activity headquarters of the Inner Light Project Group, the West Bay demolition construction crew discovered an unusual object behind the second-floor brick wall. While removing the old wall layer, they found a black Sony Mini DV camcorder, covered in dust and cobwebs, along with a small rusted tin box, buried deep in the brick crevice. The items were wrapped in an old nylon bag, sealed with brown tape. The site foreman, following regulations, contacted local police to hand over the items. On April 16, the Haight District Patrol Team received the evidence report call. 2 officers arrived at the scene, prepared a temporary custody report, and transported the camcorder and tin box to the SFPD evidence room. During preliminary inspection, they discovered the camcorder still contained a mini DV tape, the type commonly used in the late 1990s. The tin box held a few small items: a faded color photo, a wooden bead string, and a folded piece of paper, yellowed but still legible, with a few words: light, rebirth, silence. Both evidence items were sealed, assigned numbers EB 2000, 190, 14A and 014B, then sent to the cold case unit for examination. Coincidentally, at that time, the San Francisco Police Department's cold case unit had just been restructured following a series of state Justice Department reforms. The appointee to lead the special investigation team was Inspector Naomi Carter, now 46 years old, who had been the lead investigator in the 2001 Evelyn Brooks disappearance. When the evidence list reached her desk, Naomi immediately recognized the Haight Street address, a name that had followed her for nearly 2 decades. The attached summary clearly stated, "Objects found in wall of old house formerly the activity site of the Inner Light Projects Group." Seeing those words, Naomi immediately requested retrieval of the Evelyn Brooks file, code CC0-31174, from basement storage. On April 18th, she personally went to the evidence room to examine the objects. The camcorder weighed about half a kilogram, with a worn plastic casing, broken power button, but intact tape compartment. A label on the body read, Haight/Oct01, in faded marker. Naomi requested the digital forensic technician to copy the data, using specialized tape-reading equipment to avoid damage. The extraction process took nearly 4 hours. The footage was about 27 minutes long, showing scenes in a dark space with voices and moving figures. Due to age, the image was blurry and audio noisy, but some speech segments were still clear. Naomi viewed the copy for the first time the next morning in the SFPD digital room. The opening scene showed a small room with dim light, a few people sitting in a circle, candles, and a thick notebook on the table. A male voice, identified as Tyler Deaton, rang out clearly. "Silence is the only path to light." The footage then shifted to a brown-haired woman, identified as Evelyn Brooks, sitting with head bowed, hands clasped tightly, surrounded by others in silence. The final part captured her looking up, tears falling, lips moving with inaudible words. The image cut off abruptly at minute 27, with no ending. Naomi noted in the report, "Footage has ritualistic nature, not ordinary religious activity." Victim's presence confirms she was at the group session near disappearance time. The same day, the tin box was opened under forensic staff supervision. The wooden bead string was engraved with ILP, abbreviation for Inner Light Project. The faded color photo showed 8 people sitting on the floor, 2 faces matching old identification photos of Tyler Deaton and Evelyn Brooks. Trace analysis on the notepaper showed ink and paper produced between 2000–2002, matching the group's active period. All evidence items were entered into DNA testing, 3D scanning, and special preservation procedures. On April 20, 2019, Naomi submitted a preliminary report to the city police chief's office. In the memo, she clearly stated, "New evidence directly related to the 2001 disappearance of Evelyn Brooks. Video data confirms victim was alive at recording time, present at the Haight Street group activity site, matching witness statements. Need to consider whether footage details can provide information on events leading to disappearance." The report was approved the same day, with an order to reopen the investigation file. On April 22, file CC031-174 was officially reactivated in the cold case system. Naomi Carter was appointed head of the Special Investigation Team, responsible for reviewing all old evidence, cross-referencing with new technical data, and coordinating with the Digital Forensics Lab to analyze the entire tape content. Before the internal meeting, she reopened the old file labeled Evelyn Brooks, missing presumed dead. The pages were yellowed, but the final line in the 2003 report remained clear. Insufficient evidence to continue investigation. This time, Naomi drew a red line underneath and added, "Reinvestigation. New evidence discovery 2019. From that point, the Evelyn Brooks case was no longer a forgotten file in the data archive. For the first time in 18 years, the San Francisco Police Department reopened an official investigation based on evidence accidentally found behind the wall of a house that had once been the center of a prayer group that disappeared along with the silence enveloping the case since 2001. Decoding the MIDI tape content was considered the most critical turning point since the Evelyn Brooks case was reactivated. On April 23, 2019, the SFPD digital unit completed a high-quality copy from the original tape after restoring image and audio using modern noise processing technology. Naomi Carter, along with 2 forensic technicians, directly reviewed the entire video in a secure room. The timeline displayed showed the tape was recorded on the evening of October 18, 2001, exactly matching the disappearance date. The Haight/Oct01 label on the camcorder body was not random, but an internal group identifier. The video footage began with a small room, dim light, only a few candles on the floor. The room was identified as the second floor of the Haight Street house, based on ceiling structure and distinctive window frames. 10 people sat in a circle, with 3 faces clearly identifiable: Tyler Deaton, Micah Moore, and Evelyn Brooks. Tyler sat in the center, with a black-covered notebook in front. He spoke in an even, clear voice, interspersing religious terms. "We are here to renew the soul through silence." Everyone bowed their heads, hands on chests. For the first 10 minutes, the footage only captured a quiet atmosphere, occasional breathing, candle crackling, and faint sounds like sobbing. Around minute 11, the camera tilted slightly, as if the operator moved position. The lens pointed directly at Evelyn, who was hunched over, hands clasped tightly, shoulders trembling lightly. Tyler's voice rang out. "Silence is the path. Let yourself disappear to be reborn." Evelyn did not respond, only nodding. To the left, Micah Moore was seen adjusting a candle, then standing and placing a hand on Evelyn's shoulder. The subsequent image shook slightly, indicating the operator retreated to the room corner. For the next 5 minutes, there was no dialogue, only faint sounds, heavy breathing, and blurry movements in low light. At minute 18, Evelyn looked up, her face wet with tears. She said a short sentence, not entirely clear, but through audio restoration, the phrase, "I can't," could be heard. Immediately after, Tyler responded, "The path waits for no one." The footage blurred for a few seconds, then the light increased again. Evelyn bowed her head, hands trembling, breathing rapidly. Another group member stepped forward and handed her a white cloth. The footage ended with her holding the cloth in her hands, looking down at the floor. Then the screen gradually darkened. The duration stopped at 27:13, with no further recording. Naomi ordered the entire copy to be saved and requested frame-by-frame analysis. The forensics unit determined this was not a random video, but an intentional recording, with the camera placed on a tripod and a fixed angle for most of the duration. The audio indicated a clear ritual atmosphere, with guided dialogue, proving this was a systematically organized meditation ritual. The technical examination report confirmed, the footage shows elements of collective guidance, in which the victim exhibits signs of psychological pressure and not full voluntariness. During device analysis, the forensic team discovered microscopic DNA traces on the camcorder's power button. The sample was extracted and compared with Evelyn Brooks's DNA data stored in the national system since 2003. Results showed a complete match at 15 genetic loci, absolute confirmation in criminal forensics. This proved Evelyn had held or operated the camcorder, at least in a phase before her disappearance. Additionally, a second fingerprint was found on the device body, not clear enough to identify, but with a pattern similar to Micah Moore's 2001 file sample. Naomi read the results at 7 p.m. that day. She added to the internal report. Data confirms victim's presence at the location and time close to the disappearance date. Imagery shows behavior with elements of mental coercion. Evidence indicates direct involvement of group individuals. Immediately after, she submitted the report to the SFPD Justice Department, requesting reinvestigation as a criminal case with new legal grounds based on physical and digital evidence. On April 25, 2019, the San Francisco Police Department held an emergency meeting with representatives from the District Attorney's Office, the Forensics Unit, and the Cold Case team. Naomi presented a summary. The video shows a ritual called Silent Rebirth involving the victim. The footage contains signs of psychological coercion and loss of victim control. DNA evidence confirms she handled the camcorder, thus present at the ritual site. Based on physical evidence, the case qualifies for reinvestigation as an unsolved criminal case. The meeting lasted over 2 hours and ended with an official decision. The Evelyn Brooks file, code CC0311174, was transferred from cold case missing to active homicide review. The approval document was signed by the investigation chief, confirming case authority under Naomi Carter. Upon leaving the meeting room, Naomi stopped at the Cold Case Information Board, where unsolved cases were listed. Under Evelyn Brooks, she used a red pen to cross out presumed dead and replace it with Case Reopened 2019, new evidence confirmed. For the first time in 18 years, the seemingly forgotten disappearance of Evelyn Brooks was officially reinvestigated with new legal grounds and technical evidence, opening a completely different phase in the journey to find answers for what happened on the night of October 2001. After the Evelyn Brooks file was officially transferred from cold case missing to active homicide review, Naomi Carter's first step in the reinvestigation plan was to verify the whereabouts of individuals directly involved, especially Micah Moore, whose name appeared most frequently in both old statements and the victim's phone data. Records from 2001 showed Micah left San Francisco days after interrogation and had no fixed residence in California since. The search was assigned to the Federal Investigation Unit in coordination with the National Justice Data Center. Through tax records and driver's licenses, the team discovered Micah legally changed his name in 2007 to Michael A. Monroe and was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The latest local authority data indicated he ran a small musical instrument shop in the Canyon Road Artist District. On May 12, 2019, the Northern California District Court approved a federal arrest warrant for Micah Moore, at the district attorney's request, on grounds of potential involvement in an unsolved criminal case in San Francisco in 2001. The warrant was immediately forwarded to the FBI Albuquerque region. 2 days later, a joint task force with the Santa Fe Police Department executed the arrest at the subject's residence, a second-floor apartment on Paseo de Peralta. The report stated, "Subject cooperative, no resistance." Residence contained numerous religious books, a guitar, and several personal notebooks. All electronic assets, including phone, laptop, and hard drives, were sealed for data analysis. Micah was transported back to San Francisco by air within 48 hours, under supervision of 2 federal agents. Upon arrival, he was taken directly to the city police detention facility, awaiting interrogation. Naomi Carter, who had pursued the case for nearly 2 decades, chaired the first official session on May 16, 2019. The interrogation took place in a monitored room with the district attorney's representative and a recording technician present. Micah appeared thin, with prematurely gray hair and slow movements. When Naomi entered, he looked at her in silence, seemingly recognizing the person who questioned him 18 years earlier. After formalities, Naomi placed before him a copy of the 2001 statement and printed images extracted from the restored video. She began directly, "Do you recognize the people in this footage?" Micah stared at the photos for a few seconds, then nodded. "That's Evelyn and Tyler." His voice was hoarse and slow. When asked about the recording context, he admitted, "That was the silent rebirth ritual Tyler organized. I was the one operating the camera." This response was recorded and confirmed with his signature immediately after. Naomi continued, "Do you know what happened after the recording ended?" Micah was silent for a long time, then said softly, "I don't know everything. I only know I helped Tyler." When asked to explain, he admitted to assisting in moving Evelyn to the beach, but refused to provide details. He said, "Tyler told me she needed to complete the journey of silence, and I believed it. I didn't think anything was wrong." Naomi asked, "Where did you drive?" Micah only replied, "A place near the ocean to the north. I don't remember the name." The answer drew the investigation team's attention as it aligned with 2001 forensic results showing the Ford Focus traveled additional kilometers after leaving the urban area. When Naomi presented the DNA evidence on the camcorder matching Evelyn, Micah bowed his head, sighed, and said, "I knew she touched the camera. She recorded the first few scenes, then Tyler told me to continue. She wasn't happy, she was scared." This statement was recorded verbatim. He described the ritual lasting over an hour, with everyone silent because Tyler required no one speak unless permitted. When asked if Evelyn participated voluntarily, Micah only replied, "No one dared refuse." The interrogation paused after 2 hours due to Micah's fatigue. That afternoon, he requested to continue providing supplemental statements. In this part, he added that after the ceremony, Tyler instructed him to take Evelyn out of the house to complete the purification process. Micah said he helped Tyler drive out of the city that night, heading north, across the bridge, where there's forest and strong wind. When Naomi asked for the specific location, he hesitated, then said, "Tyler called it where light meets the ocean, maybe Point Reyes." This was the first time the location appeared in the entire case file. Naomi asked him to sketch the route. He roughly drew the Golden Gate Bridge, then a curving line to the northwest coast. She immediately noted this detail in the official report. In the final part of the session, Naomi asked, "Did you see Evelyn after arriving there?" Micah shook his head, replying, "No. Tyler told me to wait in the car. When he returned, he just said it's done. I didn't ask more." His voice faded, face lowered, hands clenched tightly. After that, he said nothing further. At the end of the nearly 5-hour interrogation, Naomi Carter signed the report, noting, "Subject Micah Moore admits presence at the silent rebirth ritual site, operating the camcorder, and participating in transporting the victim to a coastal area under Tyler Deaton's direction. Subject provides new information on Point Reyes location, potentially related to the disappearance. The report was immediately forwarded to the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and the Federal Criminal Division. On May 17, 2019, nearly 18 years after Evelyn Brooks disappeared, Micah Moore, the last witness from the night of October 18, 2001, was officially detained for investigation. In the concluding report, Naomi wrote the final line, "Point Reyes location information requires field verification." This is the first specific data on the victim's journey after nearly 2 decades. In the next interrogation on May 18, 2019, after a night of rest and medical supervision, Micah Moore agreed to provide more detailed statements about the events of October 18, 2001. The report opened at 9 a.m. with Inspector Naomi Carter, the district prosecutor representative, and 2 recording staff present. Micah appeared exhausted, but seemed relieved as he began recounting. He spoke slowly, evenly, pausing often for breath. The statement was recorded verbatim, over 30 pages, becoming the most critical document in the case since reinvestigation. According to Micah's account, on the evening of October 18, 2001, the Inner Light Project Group held a special ceremony called Silent Rebirth. This was not a regular session, but a ritual for those needing release from impure thoughts. Tyler Deaton announced only 10 people could attend, with Evelyn chosen as the ritual's center. Before starting, Tyler gave everyone a small cup of water, saying it was purification drink to calm the mind. Micah stated he didn't know what was in the water, but afterward Evelyn appeared tired, eyes drooping, breathing weak. She said she felt dizzy, Micah recalled. But Tyler said it was normal, that the body was shedding impurities. The ritual began around 8 p.m. The room was cleared, with only candles and a white cloth spread on the floor. Everyone sat in a circle, Tyler standing in the center, reading aloud from his black notebook about letting the soul leave the physical form. In Micah's account, Tyler's voice was deep and decisive, like reciting an oath. Evelyn sat opposite him, hands trembling, head bowed low. She was scared, I saw it, Micah stated. She whispered, I don't want to continue, but Tyler approached and placed a hand on her shoulder, saying fear is the last thing you must release. About 30 minutes later, Evelyn began shaking strongly, then collapsed to the side. Tyler signaled for absolute silence, then said this is the transformation moment. Micah and 2 others started to move toward her, but Tyler stopped them, saying she is crossing the physical part, do not touch. A moment later, Evelyn lay motionless, eyes closed, breathing faintly. Tyler bent down, touched her forehead, and said a sentence Micah remembered clearly. Let silence do its work. Afterward, he asked everyone to leave the room, saying the ritual is complete. The rest belongs to stillness. Micah stated he was the last to leave the room with Tyler. In the hallway, he asked, is Evelyn okay? Tyler replied briefly, she will be fine when she reaches where she needs to be. Micah said he didn't understand the meaning, but didn't dare ask further. The group then went downstairs to the living room. Tyler told them, Evelyn has been freed from suffering and required everyone to remain silent and not tell outsiders. He called it the covenant of light, Micah stated, and if anyone broke it, the light would abandon them. After speaking, Tyler pulled Evelyn's car keys from his pocket and told Micah to come along. According to the statement, around nearly 10 p.m., Tyler and Micah left the Haight Street house. Tyler drove Evelyn's Ford Focus, Micah in the passenger seat. They spoke little. I asked where we were going. Micah recalled, and he just said to the ocean, where she belongs. The car crossed the Golden Gate Bridge, heading north. It was dark, foggy, with no traffic. After more than 30 minutes, Tyler stopped at a coastal parking area near Muir Beach. He told Micah to wait in the car, then took a white cloth bag and went outside. Micah said he couldn't see clearly due to fog and weak moonlight, only remembering loud waves and wind. He was gone about 15 minutes and returned, looking calm. Micah recounted. I asked, "Where's Evelyn?" He said, "She stayed with the ocean." Micah stated that after returning, Tyler stopped the car at another point near Ocean Beach, where the Ford Focus was later found. He told Micah to put the car back as it was, leave it there, then the two returned home, using another group vehicle. The next morning, when the other members woke up, Tyler announced that Evelyn had left to complete the enlightenment process. No one was allowed to ask questions. In the final part of his statement, Micah said that on the morning of October 19th, Tyler called him to a private room, handed him a small cloth-wrapped bag that felt heavy, and said, "Take it to the place she mentioned, Point Reyes." Micah asked what it was, and Tyler replied, "A remaining part of the silence." He drove alone, heading north. Upon reaching the Point Reyes area, he stopped at a trail near the forest edge, where strong winds blew, then dug a small hole under the tree canopy. "I didn't open it to look," he said, "just did exactly as he told me." Afterward, he returned to San Francisco and did not see Tyler again until a few days later, when he heard Evelyn was reported missing. When Naomi asked for confirmation, Micah affirmed he never saw Evelyn again after the moment she lay motionless in the ritual room. He said in a trembling voice, "I don't know if she was still alive when we left. I didn't dare ask." Tyler said it was the will of the light, and I believed him. Naomi required him to sign the full statement, marking the timelines he remembered. He signed 3 times, hand shaking, then whispered, "I've kept this for 18 years. Micah Moore's statement report was 31 pages long, stamped and confirmed on May 18, 2019. Naomi Carter's conclusion in the internal report clearly stated, "Witness statement provides detailed sequence for the night of October 18, 2001, matching physical evidence and forensic data. Descriptions of vehicle movement and Point Reyes location open specific investigation direction for possible evidence or victim remains, concealment site." This was the first time in 18 years that the investigating agency had a complete account of what happened the night Evelyn Brooks disappeared from San Francisco. On May 20, 2019, 2 days after Micah Moore signed the statement report, Naomi Carter officially proposed a field examination at Point Reyes National Seashore, where Micah stated he buried the item at Tyler Deaton's request on the morning of October 19, 2001. The plan was approved the same day, coordinated between the SFPD Cold Case Unit, the California State Forensics Team, and the National Forest Service. Micah agreed to provide on-site guidance under special supervision, handcuffed, and escorted by 2 officers. Early morning on May 22, the 14-person investigation team departed from San Francisco, carrying positioning equipment, ground-penetrating radar, spectral cameras, and forensic excavation tools. Micah was taken to the Bear Valley Trailhead area, about 2 miles from the Point Reyes coast, where the terrain was gently sloping, with sparse trees mixed with sand and moist humus soil. After over an hour of movement, he pointed northwest, saying in a hoarse voice, "I think it's near there, under the broken tree canopy." The forensics team began marking a 50-meter radius around the indicated spot. GPR equipment quickly detected anomalies in the soil structure at a depth of about 70–90 centimeters, compressed sediment layers interspersed with inorganic material, and hard bone reflecting high waves. This sign was marked with red flag stakes. As the soil layers were gradually removed, the excavation team discovered small bone fragments mixed in fine sand and tree roots, unevenly arranged, some broken due to time pressure. Nearby, at the same depth, they found a thin silver ring, tarnished, clearly engraved with the initials, EB, on the inner side. Naomi stood at the edge of the area, silently observing as the forensic technician carefully collected each bone fragment. She recognized this detail, matched perfectly with the Brooks family's 2001 description. Evelyn used to wear a small silver ring engraved with her initials. All evidence was numbered, photographed, and sealed per standard procedure. In the excavation pit, several rotten white fabric scraps were also found, with fiber structure matching the polyester cotton type of the fiber recovered from the Ford Focus seat that year. The on-site preliminary report noted, area shows signs of manual burial, not deep, likely dug hastily. Natural decomposition occurred in a humid environment with mild sea sand erosion. The excavation process lasted until late afternoon. A total of 47 bone fragments were recovered, including the skull vertex, right femur, and numerous small pieces. The samples were preserved in vacuum bags and immediately transferred to the Central Examination Lab in San Francisco. The silver ring and fabric samples were sealed separately. Micah Moore witnessed the entire process, silent throughout, only bowing his head when seeing the ring. Naomi ordered officers to escort him from the scene immediately after. On May 24, the forensics unit conducted morphological examination. Based on pelvic bone structure and femur size, experts determined the victim was female, aged 20-30, matching Evelyn Brooks's anthropological profile. The skull had a 2.5 centimeters diameter indentation in the occipital region, not from decomposition but from blunt force impact before death. Bone marrow samples were extracted for mitochondrial DNA and compared with the mother's stored sample in the National CODIS database. Results announced on May 28 showed complete match at 16 genetic loci, confirming the victim's identity as Evelyn Brooks. The examination report included a note, DNA sample reliability, 99.9998%. Mechanical traces on bones suggest fatal injury. The silver ring was examined separately by the evidence unit. Under a microscope besides the 19B engraving, the inner side had small scratches, possibly from fingernails. No other DNA was found besides Evelyn's. The item was considered the only intact personal belonging after nearly 2 decades. The physical evidence report concluded, this item confirms the victim's presence and identity at the Point Reyes location. On May 29, the San Francisco Police Department held an internal press conference. Naomi Carter presented the examination results to the entire investigation team. Bone samples recovered at Point Reyes match victim Evelyn Brooks's DNA. Skull injury traces indicate death by external force. Legal grounds sufficient to determine the 2001 disappearance as homicide. The meeting minutes were signed by the district attorney's representative and the criminal investigation chief. After the meeting, Naomi went to the cold case archive, where the Evelyn file had been stored in Cabinet 7 for 16 years. She opened the old file, looked at the line missing presumed deceased, and used a red pen to add below, death confirmed homicide. In the internal memo sent to superiors the same day, she wrote, discovery of remains and evidence at Point Reyes corroborates witness Micah Moore's statement. Burial site shows intentional selection to avoid detection. Violent traces on bones prove victim death not accidental or voluntary. File transitions to direct perpetrator investigation phase. Examination results information was disclosed to the Brooks family in a private meeting on May 31. According to the minutes, Evelyn's mother only said one short sentence, finally, my child has been found. For Naomi Carter, this was a moment that both closed and opened a new part of the case, because from now on, Evelyn Brooks's 18-year disappearance was officially determined as a homicide, with undeniable physical, legal, and DNA evidence. In October 2019, after more than 4 months of expanded investigation since DNA results confirmed the remains found at Point Reyes were Evelyn Brooks, the San Francisco Police Department officially issued an arrest warrant for Tyler Deaton, founder and leader of the Inner Light Project Group, on charges of first-degree murder and concealing a body. The warrant was approved by the Northern California District Court on October 6, 2019, based on a chain of evidence including Micah Moore's statement, the silent rebirth video, and forensic examination results. Tyler, then 45 years old, was living in Oregon and frequently traveling to spiritual events, promoting the philosophy silence, liberation, rebirth. Travel data showed he was registered to speak at the Mind and Soul Healing 2019 conference in Palo Alto, California, on October 11 at 2:30 p.m. As Tyler Deaton exited the Santa Clara Convention Center auditorium after his speech titled The Light Beyond Words, an SFPD-FBI Joint Task Force approached and read the arrest warrant on site. He did not resist, only asking briefly, "You found her?" a question clearly recorded in the arrest report. Tyler was handcuffed and taken to a specialized vehicle, while the attending crowd looked on in shock. On the stage, the promotional banner reading, "Silence is the ultimate healing," was removed immediately after. At the same time, another investigation team executed an emergency search warrant at Tyler's residence in suburban Portland, Oregon. The simple but tidy two-story house had a basement arranged as a meditation room, with white-painted walls and dozens of candles in a circle. In the office, police discovered and seized numerous printed materials, handwritten drafts, and data files on an external hard drive. A nearly 300-page document titled Inner Light Doctrine was marked as primary evidence. Preliminary content described the belief system founded by Tyler, including arguments about purification through silence, spiritual rebirth through releasing the physical body, and the path of light in ego dissolution. Some margin notes in pencil showed commanding language, "Only the guide decides the moment of liberation." Additionally, in the desk drawer, investigators found an envelope containing 3 handwritten letters, signed TD, with content directly referencing Evelyn Brooks's death. One letter read, "She was afraid, but I believe I helped her become free. No one should be bound in the world's noise. Silence is the only path." Another wrote, "Liberation is not sin. It is the duty of those who understand light." All were sealed, numbered as evidence, and transferred to the Oregon State Handwriting Examination Lab for signature authentication. On October 13th, Tyler was transported back to San Francisco under FBI and SFPD supervision. He was taken directly to the county detention center for preliminary interrogation. Naomi Carter, who had led the case for 2 decades, was present in the interview room. Facing him, Tyler maintained a calm demeanor, focused gaze, soft voice. "I knew you'd come back to this." When Naomi asked, "Do you admit being with Evelyn on the night of October 18, 2001, he replied, "We were together, but not in the way you think." She was set free. After that answer, he fell completely silent, refusing all further questions. His temporarily appointed public defender advised him not to continue. The report noted, "Subject uncooperative, invoking right to silence." On October 15th, handwriting examination results confirmed the signatures on the 3 letters matched 98%, with Tyler Deaton's samples from tax records and personal drafts. Based on this, the district attorney's office filed a preliminary indictment, charging premeditated murder, causing death through mental and physical violence, and concealing a body. Local media quickly reported, describing the case as the resurgence of a forgotten cult case. The San Francisco Chronicle ran the headline, "Tyler Deaton, Preacher of Silence, Arrested After 18 Years." At the Cold Case Unit headquarters, Naomi Carter sat watching the television news where footage of Tyler being led from the convention center was replayed. His face showed no fear, only a faint smile, as if witnessing something prearranged. She noted in the October 16th report, "Subject arrested, unusually calm attitude, displaying extreme belief." Seized evidence reinforces hypothesis that victim Evelyn Brooks's death was not random, but the result of intentional actions based on ideology created by Tyler Deaton. File transitions to detention and preliminary prosecution phase. On October 17, 2019, exactly 18 years since the night Evelyn Brooks disappeared, Tyler Deaton was held without bail at the San Francisco County Detention Center, awaiting trial. With his arrest and the documents seized from the Oregon house, the case buried for nearly 2 decades officially entered the criminal phase, marking the biggest turning point in the journey for justice for Evelyn Brooks. The trial of Tyler Deaton in the Evelyn Brooks murder case opened on February 12, 2020, at the Northern California District Court in San Francisco, nearly 18 and a half years after the fateful night in October 2001. The event was described by the press as the trial of silence because the content revolved around a vague religious ritual with no weapons, no direct witnesses, only statements, a video segment, and DNA evidence. But all sufficient to reconstruct the picture of a tragedy that had slept too long. The prosecution, led by California Assistant District Attorney Margaret Holtz, stated in her opening, "This is not just a case of a missing person, this is a case of faith manipulation, where silence was turned into a tool of control and a young woman paid with her life." She outlined the chain of evidence the prosecution relied on: the silent rebirth video recorded at the Inner Light Project group house, Micah Moore's detailed statement, DNA examination results confirming the remains at Point Reyes were Evelyn Brooks, along with 3 handwritten letters from Tyler about release from the body. The defense, led by David Reinhardt, a lawyer experienced in religious crimes, argued my client killed no one. The ceremony was conducted in a voluntary spirit. Evelyn Brooks was an adult, capable of deciding her actions. No evidence proves Tyler Deaton directly caused injuries leading to her death. Reinhardt claimed the skull injury could be an accident from falling, and the body burial was a panic reaction by the group believing Evelyn died in a failed ritual. In the first 2 weeks, the court heard witness testimonies and screened the video extracted from the mini-DV camcorder. The images were blurry, candlelight dim, but Evelyn's face appeared clearly. When the prosecution played the part where she trembled, whispering, "I can't," then Tyler replying, "Silence will do the rest," many in the courtroom shed tears. Margaret Holtz pointed to the screen and said, "This was not a voluntary ritual, this was a terrified woman." Micah Moore was brought out as the key witness in the 3rd week. He wore a gray prison uniform, voice soft and even, recounting the entire events of the night of October 18, 2001. He admitted helping Tyler move Evelyn to the beach and bury a cloth bag at Point Reyes. When the prosecution asked why he didn't stop Tyler, Micah replied, "Because I believed him. We were taught silence was the way to find light. I was blind." He said he bore guilt and accepted punishment. In the courtroom, Naomi Carter, now seated in the investigator's row, looked down, hands clenched tightly. Defense attorney Reinhardt, in cross-examination, tried to undermine Micah's testimony. He claimed the witness had motive for sentence reduction, that memories after 18 years could be distorted. He asked, "Did you witness Tyler hitting her with your own eyes?" Micah answered, "No." Reinhardt immediately said, "So how do you know she died from my client's actions, not from a drug complication?" Micah was silent for a few seconds, then replied, "Because I heard him say let silence do its work, and at that point she was no longer breathing." The answer left the courtroom in absolute silence. The forensics side continued. Evelyn's skull sample had an indentation from strong impact, impossible from a natural fall. Toxicology experts also confirmed no signs of sedative overdose sufficient to cause death, rejecting the complication argument. Meanwhile, Tyler's 3 handwritten letters, with signatures matching 98% upon examination, became indirect evidence proving motive. One of the letters was read by the prosecution in court. "I helped her reach stillness. Sometimes, to heal, one must release completely." Tyler Deaton maintained a cold demeanor throughout the trial. He sat straight, sometimes taking notes, sometimes closing his eyes. When invited to testify, he said only a few sentences. Evelyn was not forced, she chose that path. When the prosecution asked, "Did you bury her body?" he replied, "No. I only returned her to where she wanted to go, the ocean." The court noted he showed no remorse. After nearly 3 months of trial, on May 22, 2020, the jury began deliberations. The process lasted 3 days with intense debates over determining the intent element in causing death. Finally, on May 25, the jury 4-person read the verdict in court. Tyler Deaton is guilty of second-degree manslaughter and concealing a body. The verdict eliminated the premeditated murder element due to lack of direct evidence of violent acts, but affirmed he was responsible for creating and maintaining a ritual leading to the victim's death, while intentionally concealing the consequences. The court sentenced him to 20 years in prison, no parole in the first 10 years, along with the obligation to cooperate in investigations related to the Inner Light Project group's activities. While the judge read the sentence, Tyler looked straight ahead, showing no emotion. As he left the courtroom, he said softly to Naomi, standing near the exit, only 3 words. "She's at peace now." For Micah Moore, after cooperating and providing testimony that helped locate the remains, the prosecution recommended a reduced sentence under special provisions for cooperating witnesses in unsolved cases. On May 26, 2020, the court sentenced him to 10 years in prison, with 5 years suspended under conditional rehabilitation. In Prosecutor Holtz's statement, she said, without his testimony, the truth would remain buried at Point Reyes forever. Media coverage was extensive for weeks. The Los Angeles Times ran the headline, "Belated Justice for Evelyn Brooks, Victim of Silence." In evening news broadcasts, they replayed the old video, Evelyn's hazy face in candlelight, wide eyes, trembling hands, an image that became a tragic symbol of a case where the line between religion, superstition, and crime had been blurred. Naomi Carter, who started the case at age 28 and was now nearly 50, was invited to speak after the trial. She said briefly, "The silence has lasted long enough. Evelyn has finally spoken." With the 20-year sentence for Tyler Deaton, the San Francisco court officially closed one of the most complex and longest-running cases in the city's criminal history. A case where silence was no longer a symbol of meditation, but a warning about the cost when faith is led to extremism. The story of Evelyn Brooks, a young graduate student drawn into the mental control cycle of the Inner Light Project group, is not just a past tragedy, but also reflects very real dangers in modern American life. In a free society where everyone has the right to choose beliefs and lifestyles, the boundary between religion, spiritual freedom, and manipulation is sometimes frighteningly thin. Evelyn was educated and intelligent, but still became a victim of an ideology presented under the guise of healing and enlightenment. Tyler Deaton, the self-proclaimed guide, exploited the search for meaning among young people like her to establish absolute control, something that in the modern world can appear not only in religious groups, but also in online communities, spiritual gurus, or the proliferating self-improvement movements across America. The biggest lesson from this case is the pursuit of peace should never trade away the ability to ask questions. When someone demands silence, disconnection from the world, or complete surrender of trust to them, that is no longer spirituality but domination. Evelyn's case reminds us that the smartest and kindest people can still be led astray when lonely or seeking meaning. Therefore, in today's American life, where many face anxiety and mental crises post-pandemic, it is crucial to stay alert, seek support from professional communities, and not hesitate to speak out when something feels wrong, even if others call it silence for enlightenment. Justice can only be protected when people do not let silence become a doctrine. If you believe no silence should hide the truth, subscribe to the channel to join us in continuing to explore cases forgotten by time. Thank you for following the story of Evelyn Brooks. See you in the next video, where justice will speak again.